Hello and welcome to another Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. Today I shall be making over a Matchbox number 29C fire pumper truck. These were first produced in 1966. So let's have a look at what I've got to work with today. Okay, well the underside's not too bad. The windscreen's got a crack in it which is a bit annoying, but see if I can fix that up somehow. The light's been pushed in on the roof. There's a pipe missing here and a ladder missing here. To begin with, I'm going to drill out the rivets to remove the base. For the small rivet, I'm using a drill that is 2.9mm in diameter, and for the large rivet, I'm using a drill that is 3.4mm in diameter. Now it's very important to keep your work area clean, so I found this fantastic little brush in my ensuite, and it is ideal for sweeping up small iron filings and swarf, etc. After cleaning up, I simply remove the base with the help of a small flat bladed screwdriver, like this. There's an accumulation of fluff in here. Probably been in there many years. Next I've got to drill out this rivet to remove the windscreen. This is very risky because I could drill through the roof if I'm not careful. So to do this without drilling through the roof, I've modified a drill bit by taking off the tip. That way it has a very shallow cut and reduces the chance of me wrecking the vehicle. I've marked it with some blue heat shrink to set it apart from the other drills in my kit. That way I know it's a special drill for removing windscreens. Now I'm going to take the white plastic moulded section off the top of the back of the vehicle. I'm using a clamp to give myself a space between the model and the workbench. That way when I push these rivets out, the white plastic section has somewhere to go. I'm using a pencil for this. Just a little bit of firm pressure and they come out quite easily. Now I hadn't noticed before, but there are two little pegs at the back here. But this material is quite flexible. So I am quite confident at just prising it off using the screwdriver without doing any damage. There we go. That wasn't too hard at all. Next I am going to remove the wheels. I do this using a small Dremel, and I just grind off the end of the axles and then pull the wheels off. Now my favourite time, paint stripping. I'm using my standard polish stripper paint stripper because it seems to do the job quite well. So I apply it liberally with a small paintbrush and leave it to cook for a little bit. Maybe 20 minutes or so. You can see the paint blistering in this time-lapse photography. Now it's just a simple case of scraping the loosened paint off the model with a pink toothbrush. Any little bits that are left behind I remove using some dental tools. I try not to push too hard because I may scratch the model. This grill's a little bit fiddly. I finish off with a soft metal brush and just give it a quick once over to get all the little remnants off. I've noticed there's a rough edge here on the top of the windscreen, so I'm just going to round that off with a small file. Look at the details in this model. It's all cupboards and cabinets all over it. There's a little bit of damage there. It's kind of like been eroded by something. So I'm going to fill that up. It's a slight hollow. I'm going to fill it up with some model putty. I've got this dental tool that fits perfectly in that gap, so I'm going to use that to apply the putty. It doesn't need much, just a small amount. Now when that's set, I'll sand it flat and you won't even know it was there. This is the model after it's been undercoated with Tamiya fine white primer. Really highlights the details quite well. And you can also check it at this stage for any dents or nicks that you may have missed during your initial inspection. Now I'm going to paint the model. It is not fire engine red as you may expect, but instead it is red with a hint of orange in it. I've mixed up some paint using red with a touch of yellow in it to get that orange colour that I'm after. Today I am using Mr. Hobby water-based acrylic paints. I'm using yellow number 413 and red 327. The acrylic paint goes on really well and instantly forms a glossy coat. I'm happy with that. I've been unable to source spare parts for this model online, therefore I am using my 3D printer to make my own. Here is the design for the ladder, and here is the design for the pipes. I am using a 3D program called SketchUp 2018. Initially I thought there was two ladders, one on each side. After looking at images online, I realised that one side had a ladder and the other side had hard suction hoses. So I'm having to make both. Here's some time-lapse footage of the 3D printer printing out the pipes. After making the spare parts, I now have to try and make some decals. Using Paint Shop Pro and some downloaded images off the internet, I managed to make some miniature decals for the vehicle. I'm going to print them out on some water slide transfer paper. It comes in two types, clear and white backed. I'm using white backed for these decals. If I used clear, the yellow words Denver would probably not be as yellow because the background colour would show through. This is me cutting them out very accurately along the edge of the design. All this work has made me hungry, so I'll have a light snack for my lunch today. I've given the base a light spray of some aluminium paint I bought from the local $2 shop. Now it's time to clean the windscreen. I use this Autosol metal polish and a cotton bud. Afterwards, I dip it into some self-shining floor polish. This gives it a final gloss coat and makes it look new. I place it on some paper towel and cover it with a small cup to prevent any dust from settling on it. To glue it back into the vehicle, this time I'm using some clear silicone. This way, if I manage to buy a replacement windscreen in the future, it'll be a simple matter just to pull the old one out and put the new one in. I seat the windscreen into the cabin using a cotton bud. It doesn't look too bad despite it being cracked down the centre. I've put the white plastic moulding back on the vehicle and now I'm test fitting my 3D printed model parts. They look quite good. I glue them into position using some super glue gel. I apply it using a toothpick as you only need the tiniest amount. Here's a shot of the underside showing the colour matched screws that I used to refit it. I think they look quite good. Now I'm going ahead and putting on my homemade decals onto the doors. They are extremely fiddly as they are so small. I'm using some eyebrow tweezers and a toothpick to position them accurately. I then use a cotton bud and some scraps of tissue paper to absorb any excess moisture and encourage the decal to stick to the model. Come on decal, you can do it! So here is what I started with. Rather shabby with some bits missing. After my TLC, this is what it looks like now. Now that it's been re-equipped with a new ladder and new suction hoses, this little beauty is off to fight some fires in the Australian bush. For those of you who are interested in how I got the blue light on the roof to flash, please stay tuned as I will give you a short tutorial in the next segment. When I first got this model, I thought how cool would it be to have a blue flashing light on the roof. So I set about making some plans to make it happen. Here is a plan I drew up for my first idea. My design features a blue flashing LED, a button battery, and an axle switch that will be activated by pressing down on the model. I'm using a 3mm in diameter LED and a button battery holder. Both are available from eBay. The batteries are very cheap and available from your local $2 or $1 shop. I trialled two types of LED. One was a red LED and the other one was a blue LED. Because the original model came with a blue light, I thought that I would go with the blue. Unfortunately, the globe looks clear, which wouldn't quite match the original looks of the model. So what I did was I used some Tamiya clear blue paint. This paint is translucent, so I dipped the LED in it, and I'm hoping that when it's dry, the LED will still function as it's supposed to. I've got to mount the battery holder onto the chassis of the vehicle somehow. I want to put it here, but there's a metal projection in the middle there. Must be part of the manufacturing process. It serves no purpose for the model, so I'm going to cut it off to allow me to put the battery compartment where I want it to be. I'm using my Dremel and a small circular cutting bit. There, all I need to do is cut off the legs on the bottom of the battery compartment and it should fit in there nicely. For the switch, I'm using a small piece of spring steel. I'm gluing it into position on the base of the model using JB Weld, a product that was recommended to me by my subscribers. The spring steel I stole from a pair of hobby pliers. I've had to elongate the axle hole for the axle to move up and down to operate the switch. Like this. Here's the battery and battery holder glued into position. And here is the LED wired up to the switch at the back of the vehicle. Initially I wanted the front wheels to operate the switch, but there was no clearance between the wheel and the body of the vehicle and they would not move. So I had to end up putting everything at the rear. Now I'm just testing the switch to see that everything works, and it does. The last thing I did was put some insulation tape over the top of the assembly. This was to prevent the battery from shorting out against the body and going flat. I thank you for watching this episode of Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. Hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye. What? The f***? Alright. Oh, come off.